Good afternoon, cuties, and welcome to Cutie Connect Cafe, where we tell stories about everything queer and tech. I'm Naufel, co-founder at QueerTech and your host. As you know, QueerTech is based in Tech in Montreal, and we would like to acknowledge that QueerTech is located in the unceded Indigenous lands. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodian of the lands and the waters on which we gather today. As usual, I want to thank our sponsors and supporter for this series of events that we do. Thank you, RBC, for presenting the QT Connect live streams. And also thank you to Sage, Unity Technologies, Sun Life, Ubisoft, FanHack, PaySafe, and Local Logic. As you know, next week is a big week for QueerTech, and very excited to really announce that we are making so much progress for the QT virtual job fair coming up on November 4th and 5th. Registration are still open at the events. We already have an amazing group of participants joining us next week. So if you're looking to register, you can go on our website, queertech.org, or you can use the link below, queertech.info/QVF November 2021. We're going to have different panels, fire chats, workshops, and also for those looking for a job, can reschedule time to interview with different partners that are joining the event. As you see, we have many partners that are going to show on the screen, and really excited to share them with you, and so you can register to interview with them. The other thing that we are that you know is we have the job board is live also. So if you're looking for jobs in tech or looking to advance your career in tech, you can go to queertech.org/jobs. And if you need any help to connect with these companies, you can also connect with me at naufel@queertech.ca. So before we get started with our guests, for those who have any questions or comments throughout the duration of our live stream, you can write your questions or comment on the comment box in the social media outlet you are watching us on. You can also tag anyone who is looking for a job in tech or looking to advance their career in tech and need any directions or inspiration, motivation. So just be aware that your comments or questions will be shown on this video. So for those who love what we do and want to support QueerTech, and thank you for everyone who is donating to QueerTech every month to support our activities, you can donate to us on queertech.org, and thank you for your support. So today, our guest is Chantale. Chantale is a product manager and product and operation manager for Locketgo. It's a smart local and software startup in Montreal, and she's not reviewing user experience or dispatching for installation in her downtown. Chantale puts on events for women, work, and whiskey meetups group, and moonlights as a house music DJ. Welcome, Chantale, to the show. You may reveal yourself.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Chantale.
Thank you for having me.
Connect Café. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Doing very well. It's a very busy time at QueerTech with the upcoming event, so we're very excited for that. Well, very excited to also have you on the show. We have a lot to discuss today, and I always start by sharing my pronouns are he and him. And what are your pronouns?
Mine are she and her. Thanks for asking.
Wonderful. So as usual for this show, we like to go a little bit to the beginning of our speaker's life and kind of get to know you before we dive into your professional experience and share some of the skills and competencies that you acquired throughout your journey and advise some of our QTs on the journeys that they want to take. So tell us a little bit, going in the beginning of your life, like where did your story begin? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What did you study? All the good stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm born and raised in Ottawa. I've been in Montreal now for about 7 years. I've always loved the city of Montreal, and in my later years, in my teens, I was visiting for all kinds of music festivals and all the arts and culture and nightlife scene. And I was here so often that I decided to make the jump. But if not, I had spent 27 years in the nation's capital, and and that was really great. I think starting very young, I was a very curious kid that liked to kind of integrate and get into anything and everything. I was just maybe a sponge for knowledge and information and experience. And I was very fortunate enough to have some parents that supported my endeavors and sent me to mini enrichment courses and got me involved in all sorts of different activities and camps. And from a young age, I guess I learned a lot along the way, and always tried to find ways of combining my knowledge and skills to develop ideas and little projects and little science experiments here and there. So yeah, that's a little bit about me in my younger years, a curious kid, a curious nerdy, and a little bit artistic kid as well.
I love it. I as we talk with more and more people, I realize how many people have this intersection of the love for technology, but also for art. And it's really great to see that there is really good connection between people who want to work in the tech industry and be creative and bring the artistic creativity to tech. So going to where did you go in university? Was it in Ottawa or?
I did, yes. I actually started off in the biomedical sciences at Ottawa University. My little fast fact: my first university class, I was 15 years old. I started very young, and maybe a little too young in retrospect, but very young. But I was fortunate enough to have a good circle of friends with which I grew with, in that we're all going into the same kind of domain within the sciences. So that was a lot of fun. Those early university years. The workload in the biomedical sciences was a bit heavy. I was kind of balancing that with full-time work to support myself and pay my rent and my bills as well. And eventually I left Ottawa University to pursue a little career in graphic design. I had self-taught in graphic design. And then after working for a year as a graphic designer, I decided that I wasn't sure I liked the 9-to-5 grind in graphic design. So I ended up going back to school in computer science at Algonquin College.
So you had a love for science, and then you made it into kind of like art and graphic design. What was the reasons you made that shift?
Actually, while I was working as a graphic designer for Transcontinental Media, it was funny. I was working for the Ottawa office, but the tech department, the tech support department for our little Ottawa office was in Montreal. I'm going to call them the girls. My team back in the day would always call on me to try and solve the problem before calling the remote team. So I was kind of like the in-office tech person, let's say, just because I had a natural ability with computers from a young age. My father was repairing computers for friends and family, as it says in my little bio, and I got exposed to that at a pretty young age. So I kind of ended up inheriting, let's say, those skills and that natural ease and ability. And so, I was, as a graphic designer, doing repairs, fixing things for my colleagues, even creating little Apple macros to like facilitate and automate some of our workflow. I thought, well, I enjoy doing this and I seem to be good at it. Maybe I should consider going back to school and studying it and seeing what comes out of that. So I did start in the let's say pure and applied sciences, and then eventually made the switch to tech. And I didn't look back. When I started at Algonquin College, I started in the computer programmer program, and while that was really great, I think that I wanted, being maybe a generalist and really liking to know how everything's connected and understanding the big picture of things, I decided to switch to computer science, so I could get some of the kind of engineering and the understanding of the why behind all the things that you can be doing in programming. So that's a little bit about my educational path.
Yeah, I love it, and we'll talk a lot about careers, but we talk a lot like people's career are not a straight line. People don't just go from A to B. It's a winding road that you kind of discover, but we don't really talk. It's the same thing for university, right? We have to make choices for education at such a young age, and a lot of people will study one thing and then fall passionate about other things, and slowly kind of make your way through the education world to kind of figure out the path that you want to go. And so in all this journey that you were going into university, we're curious to also hear a little bit, were there any pivotal moments that impacted your life, especially that queer journey that you were going through?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good tight-knit group of friends who I had met actually on a co-op term in my computer science program that became a really good friend. And we worked just down the hall from each other, and we were the two interns on a floor of people that were a bit older and established in their careers. And so her and I would go out for lunch, we became really good friends, and she introduced me to a lot of her friends, and we were just like this really tight-knit, rat pack, let's say, and we'd go out to dinners together and whatnot. And after a few years of kind of that friendship, this friend kind of did her coming out to us in her group of friends, and I was kind of taken aback. She had a male. She had a male partner at the time, and it came to us as a bit of a surprise. But we were all we were all inclusive and happy for her that she was exploring this. I'm going to say at the time kind of this new side to herself, the more I got exposed to her, let's say, new world, the more I saw the possibilities and that it's okay to be gay, let's say, and not, maybe, I don't know if it was a year or 6 months after kind of being exposed to this friend coming out, I decided, hey, I'm gonna give this a try. Like, why
Mhm.
limit yourself, and why not
Mhm.
open yourself up to the possibilities? And
Mhm.
I'm very grateful that she had the courage to, let's say, come out, and come out to her friends. And since then, I think that I really understand the importance of queer visibility, because it allows. Queer visibility allows for other people to see that it's okay to be gay, and in the workplace too, and live their own true lives, and be their authentic selves.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit about my queer journey, I'd say.
Wonderful. And when did you discover your love for music and the desire to DJ?
I was just talking about this with some friends the other day. I think I was 13 years old. I had tried this little social experiment with myself, where I had decided that I was going to cut myself off television, and give myself 1 year without television, and with the exception of being able to watch sporting events and music television. And
Mhm.
so my parents, to kind of encourage me in that like self-discipline and that endeavor, had subscribed to a bunch of music channels, like satellite TV music stations. I had all the
Mhm.
MTV, BPM TV, Much Music, a whole bunch of stations. And so I those were the channels I had access to. So for a whole year, I'm gonna say I got exposed to just a lot of music and a lot of music videos, and I really enjoyed it. And a lot of the stuff was, a lot of the channels were European channels, so
Mhm.
European music channels.
Mhm.
And I don't know if any listeners are out there are familiar, but I think most of the time, I'm going to say good music, and I'm being
Mhm.
biased here. That's my own opinion, but I think some really great music comes from around the world, not just North
Yeah,
America, and it often
absolutely.
ends up landing here sometime later. Now, back in the day, there weren't as many social media networks around, so it took 2 or 3 years for that kind of music to reach North America. But yeah, back then it was 2 or 3 years, and so listening to all this, I think that I developed an ear
Mhm.
for music, as well as my parents had put me in some piano lessons, some guitar lessons. So yeah, I had developed a bit of an ear for
Mhm.
music, and I loved dancing. I loved going out and having a good time, and
Me
I
too.
was, yeah, yeah, right. And who doesn't? We've missed
I
a lot
know.
of that in the last year
I
and a
I
half.
I know. Quebec really needs to change that soon because we're missing to
Yeah,
go out on the dance floor
very sad
and have
about
some
that.
fun.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just bought myself a big outdoor speaker, so that when I do picnics outside with friends, we
yes,
have music.
yes, that sounds good. We definitely need to do that. I go often to Fontaine, which is really fun, and connect with people. So, I always believe, like I want to touch base on your creative journey and becoming DJ and making music, and also your tech role. And this is going to be a segue to like talking a little bit about you getting into tech and working in tech. Um, do you find that creative journey that you went through as a DJ come in handy today in your tech world, and how do you use those skills in your role?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, when I'm producing product video demos,
Mhm.
sometimes sometimes that helps. I think that I have an ear
Yeah.
for selection of good music,
Yeah.
for when I want to
Yeah.
convey a certain emotion. You put
Mhm.
a certain tune or a certain ringtone to it, let's say, for lack of better terms. But yeah, I think that it has helped me. At the same time, um, I think that there's a lot of overlap between music and math and programming, because you can
Mhm.
actually program your interfaces and devices the way that you want to produce music. And so I think they kind of go hand in hand because of my studies in programming. It has influenced the way I play music. I work on a lot of, I use a lot of harmonic mixing, and to do that, I analyze my tracks before my sets to understand what keys are being being used, and I program my interface, my keyboard, and all that to have easy access to what's going on. And there's a lot of background and prep work sometimes that we're not all familiar with. So I think that the programming has helped maybe play live and play good sets, and I think that music has helped me have maybe a more of a creative side for to be able to apply to my job, let's say. A lot of things in startup, especially in the startup world, you need some storytelling. You need to understand the journey behind things. And with music, that's kind of what you do in a set as well. When you DJ, you start up. It depends on the set too, but typically, you'll start off slow and you'll build it up, and you'll bring people on the journey. At least I think the good sets bring you on a whole kind of an emotional roller coaster and make you feel full afterwards. Fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's amazing. So I want to kind of go a little bit into your journey, and I'll come to this creative side that you have. As I mentioned earlier, career is not a straight line, and people usually will move between different roles and different industries before they kind of land in the things that they are passionate about. And so I want to go through your career. I know you worked in different industries, you had different roles. So kind of walk us through some of the main roles that you have recently, and tell us a little bit why did you choose these roles, and kind of we want to get how did you end up being in operations and product management?
I'm really grateful that my program in university in computer science had co-op terms to them. Whenever I speak to anyone, it's theoretical education is great, but in a domain like tech, I think that it's important to have practical experience. And so not only for yourself, but when you're trying to get hired, to show that you worked in an office, to show that you've worked on a team before to solve real problems. I think that helps. And so I'm grateful that my program had co-op terms. And some of my first co-op terms being in Ottawa were with different government departments. So actually, the first department I worked with was Canadian Heritage, and I was doing a lot of graphic design as well as programming of some. I was digitizing some forms, so things that you would typically be PDFs. It was sometimes working on the front end to transform them into online input forms, let's say. And so for Canadian Heritage, so I was kind of doing both in these kinds of co-op terms. So that got me exposed to both the professional side of graphic design as well as maybe front end development, and at least lower level or maybe basic programming. So I think that in terms of my career, I kind of started with that. Eventually, I switched departments and became a business application support officer for the House of Commons, which was more on the tech support side. So I was familiar with some of the in-house made software to manage the Hansard and transcribe and translate committees real time. And so you need some tech support to be able to cater to that. So that was really great to have that kind of experience too. So I had the programming side and some of the kind of a tech support side. And some graphic design too. So, I touched a few different things. Touched a few different things there. Eventually, little anecdote. I was also working part-time in a resto bar in Ottawa at the time, and one of my regular customers that eventually became, I'm going to say, a friend. Noticed I was really tired one day, and he asked me, hey, what's going on? Why do you look so tired? And I told him about all the things that I was doing. I was doing freelance graphic design. I was working daytime my co-op term. I had a part-time tech job too, trying to support myself while I was in school. Yeah. And he said, oh, graphic design. He said, I have some more work for you. And I'm like, okay, great. Bring it on. But what was interesting is that I worked as a freelancer graphic designer for this tech company that had Android tablets in hotel rooms in the States. And I went from graphic designer to being able to program some stuff for them and map out some user interfaces and have some say and some input on the user experience behind the use of this tablet. And so you can see like all the other elements had started to come together into this maybe this freelance role. So that was a part-time little jobs here, little odd jobs for this client here and there, and it eventually became a full-time job. Working, I had done a creative and content director as well as I had worked as a sales engineer, so I understood what was being built. So I was able to go from city to city, doing the kind of pre-sales and the scoping of the requirements of the client and understanding if our tech could meet those requirements or not. And so I've had a few different experiences, and I love that the path isn't linear. Because you never know where you'll end up. You never know what kind of circumstances will be. You'll never know who you'll meet in your part-time job working in a bar who might change things for you. So I got exposed to doing remote work pretty young, before it was a big thing, and that allowed me to move from Montreal to from Ottawa to Montreal and work full-time as a freelancer contractor in tech, let's say. So that's a little bit kind of earlier years. And then it's kind of cumulative experiences have brought me to where I am today as an operations and product manager.
Yeah, no, that's I love that story because, through a lot of the experiences, you were able to accumulate also different skills that working at a bar and interacting with people is really different than when you sit on your computer and do your graphic design and then your co-op work, and it's really amazing to see the different skills that we acquire. And I talk to a lot of people also who sometimes forget how to or don't understand how to package themselves, right? And take these different experiences, even if they are small or big, and take like your co-op, your bar, and your design, and package it and say, these are all the things I know, and I can get into a job like in operations and products management. So did you always wanted to do operations and product management? Like, how did this came about?
What's interesting about operations is I don't know like if there's a fixed field of study for operations. I think operations it's like you have to be able to manage and touch everything. And so I had a bit of natural abilities / because of previous experiences and being able to tie everything together. I think that makes me good at my job in operations. So and then actually the startup that I'm currently working for, Locketgo, is I think you said it earlier, it's a smart locker and software company. And we're at places at the Bell Center. So if you want to, it's a kind of like a co-check situation where you pay to reserve a locker and whatnot. I had actually started with Locketgo as a product marketing manager. So this was March 2020, where my job was to kind of simplify the tech and market things in a way for everyone to be aware that these lockers exist. And my job was to make sure that all the lockers were booked for all the events. 2 weeks after I started this job, COVID hit. And so because of that, there were no events to do any marketing for. And so, the choice was to either not have a job or pivot. And so because of my varied background and skill set and I guess knowledge and experience in tech, because the organization I'm working for had to pivot. We needed someone more on the product side than the marketing side, so product management side, I should say. So I, after those 2 weeks, I kind of switched to product manager, and I was able to work with developers, and I designed some new UIs, new screens, because we had adapted our technology to cater to new markets, because it was do or die, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I was fortunate enough to have a team that trusted in me and believed in me and my skills. And for several months, I took on a product management role. And once our product was developed, I'm going to say as an MVP in its initial phases, the proof of concept, we needed to deploy these locker banks and these projects. And so at the time, we didn't have an operations person, or we had to let go of some people because there wasn't a need at the time. We needed to focus on product development. So I eventually, being in a startup, also took on a kind of part-time operations role as well to help roll out these projects. So it's really interesting because I get to see the software side of things and the R&D development, but also get to bring the project to term and really the rollout plans on the operations side. So that's kind of how I ended up here today.
Yeah, and again, I love it because you're really touching a very important aspect in career, is that sometimes some of the career choices we make early on might feel not important, right? And you'll be surprised how they come in handy later on. I come back to talk a lot about the service industry, like people who work in retail or work in bars and stuff. At some point, they usually like to pivot to like a more office setup where you have a more decent hours and regular hours that you work and stuff like that. But a lot of these experiences come so handy, and I think especially in tech, where we like to have people with non-traditional backgrounds come in. It really contributes to that diversity of the skills that you have and your contribution to the company.
Absolutely.
So what does so tell us a little bit, I want operational product manager, what is it you do on a daily basis? What does that role entail exactly?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I appreciate is it feels like there's no 2 days alike, especially at the rate that we're growing. The product management role is I think a big part of it is understanding the users or potential users' needs, their requirements, and being able to translate those either into written business requirements, or even build some screenshots, or build some it could be like a sketch on a paper, like it could be using software like Figma or Sketch to create user interfaces that you would then put and communicate towards the development team, the programmers, to then for them to program and then be able to launch. So product management is a lot of helping prioritize the background. There might be a lot of ideas that come out either from the sales team or different managers or the public. You see even sometimes on your the company's pages, like people are experiencing pains, and you want to see how to answer to those, but you also need to understand how to prioritize, because you can't do everything and you can't do it all at the same time. So product management is a big job about understanding the needs. How do you solve the pains, and in what order do you solve those as well? So that's kind of what I do, I'm going to say, on the product manager side, including creating some documentation, some user guides, and whatnot. On the operations side, I mean, again, what's interesting, where I work, we both have a hardware and electronics, and software. So I spoke a bit more about the software portion, but hardware and electronics. If we're deploying these locker banks somewhere, We currently have some in Verdun, for example. There's some zoning laws around what can be erect as like a physical installation. Who's providing the electricity for this? How do we winterize this electronic equipment to sustain a Canadian winter? So there's a lot of R&D involved, but operations in a startup, at least, there's also some project management as well. So there's all these little initiatives within the business, and you kind of steer the ship to make sure that things are being done on time within budget and with the resources that you have. So operations can be like managing the research and development and making sure you're on time with your, let's say, research milestones and targets. Like it could also be managing the deployment of locker banks in this case, saying we're installing this many lockers at this location on this date. Okay, that's great. So you need to put in the orders. You need to put in the orders for all the parts. Find some new suppliers if certain suppliers are out of parts. That signed, I don't think that you need so much a tech. I mean, it depends on certain things. It's good to have some tech knowledge, but I think it's more of about organization. And I think but that being said, I think I guess my studies in computer science and engineering to have like kind of a methodical approach to things, and that has helped me on the operations side.
Yeah. No, that's really amazing, and thank you for going both into the roles, because a lot of times I think it's definitely for product management, it come in handy to have some tech base to understand and communicate between the business team and the tech team, and basically become that translator between business and tech, and understand a little bit how the tech work. Operations have always been, in my opinion, and a lot of the queer tech people that I talk to and queer folks that want to get into tech, I tell them, operations is a great way to go into tech. It might be a lower barrier of understanding tech. You don't need to have a tech degree to go into an ops role. Of course, understanding it is very important, but it can always be a good entry level to tech and kind of grow. I mean, operations as a whole, departments that a lot of companies have, and as a company scale, that side of things also scales with it. So for you, what are some of the skills and competencies that you think people need to have to get into an operation role? And then we'll talk about the product management role.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that I don't think there's one way to get into it. This isn't necessarily just for operations, but this is my personal opinion. If you can work in a restaurant and bar industry and serve people, I think that's a really good start. It's it seems to not be related, but what's interesting is that you deal with different types of people, different personalities, all different walks of life, and I think that it's important for people to just get exposed to diversity, like the people and the different possibilities that are out there. When you come to an operations role, you're going to deal with all kinds of different people with all different levels of knowledge, and so you need to have more patience with some. They all have their pasts and their reasons for expressing things the way that they do or don't. Some people are communicators and some aren't, and so I think for any role really, but operations too, start by understanding how people communicate and work. So that's number one. Number two, get exposed to anything and everything. If you have an idea, try and build it. You have an idea for a business, it's a sneaker business, or selling your artwork online, or I don't know. I think try and build your own business, and when you don't know how, Google stuff. Be a self-starter. I think that for operations, a big skill that you need to have, not only people skills, but be a self-starter. There's no rule book. There's no one way of doing operations, and you need to be curious and constantly asking questions. I think discipline is another skill that's required in operations. You have dates and deadlines to manage. And you have to be able to convince different teams to align them, to be on the same page, to meet those deadlines all together and work as a team. So I'd say develop skills of discipline, develop skills of being a self-starter and self-reliant, let's say, and develop some people skills. So, none of those are really tech oriented. For sure, especially if your company is doing some research and development, some technology can be learned, but I really think soft skills are the most important part of operations. Tech skills can be developed once you have curiosity, once you want to learn. Learn how to learn. I think that's a big one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that you say that, because I think if you are willing to learn, I think the ops role is a great role to start. It's because it gives you exposure to a startup, right, and how it functions, and also you don't need all these preset skills and requirements to learn it. So it's really great spot. For product management, in your opinion, what are the skills and competencies someone need to have to start a product management career?
Yeah, I mean, both of these titles can be pretty broad, and it depends on what that organization builds or what problems and pains it solves. I think product manager. What I appreciated about my journey is it kind of started with programming and development, and some of my first jobs were tech support or they were quality assurance officer. So those, I'm going to say, probably lower level jobs get you exposed to the 360 of a product, like all the work that goes into it. And then eventually, you go on into eventually maybe a product manager role. I think what's important about product management is really to actually have a 360 understanding about how the product works, but how users use or don't or won't use the product. But again, those people skills, like when you're a product manager, you have to understand how to interview people, how to not ask leading questions, how to ask the right questions to get to the answers that you're trying to put together, let's say. So people don't always know what they want. They know what they don't want. Like they'll express their frustrations. I continuously use the example of what are those called? The self-serve, the automated cashiers. The new machines that you'll find at Shoppers Drug Mart. Not one user, not one person said, I want electronic self-serve machines. No one said that. What people observed was long lineups, expensive, let's say, labor costs from an operations perspective. And so the creators of this technology understood the pains of different players and put together a solution to solve those pains. So it's about kind of being able to observe and pull conclusions from your observations.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much. This has been an amazing time and kind of understanding the two roles. And before we wrap up, I have a couple of questions, and always time get out of hand from me. But you recently joined QueerTech Board of Directors, which I'm very, very excited about. And I want to know, what are you excited about the most for serving on the board of QueerTech?
Yeah, I mean, being in tech, and I'm going to say especially as a woman in tech, I recognize the need, more so recognize the need of and importance of, I'm going to say, diversity in tech. If you have the same type of person that is doing the product management and the development and the testing of something, that product is going to end up catering to those kinds of people. And it's not going to solve real problems. It's only going to solve problems for this select group of people. And so I think that one of the things I really appreciate about queer tech is, I think it's in its values and mission and values is to queer the workspace. And for me, what that means is to bring diversity to the workspace. If we want tech to represent people, we need different types of people to be working in the tech. So to me, giving time to an organization that is that's what its mission is what's the most exciting to me is to help it grow.
Absolutely. Chantale, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and your life with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and really looking forward to work with you on the board for Queer Tech.
Yes, absolutely. If I may say one last thing, I used to work as an education manager for a web development bootcamp, and one of the things that we always told the students was, don't look anywhere else. You're on your own journey, and so if you'll constantly have imposter syndrome or whatnot if you're always comparing yourself to others. I think that's one of the things I appreciate about being queer is that I no longer compare myself to others. I'm me, and I'm my authentic self. And I think that, it's important to, if you really want to grow and to maybe even get into tech, try something. Try freecodecamp.org. Don't compare yourself to others, and just let yourself grow and try things.
Absolutely. Thank you. Very well said. A lot, we have tendencies to compare ourselves to people around us and forget to actually just assess ourselves and our ability to do things. And that's just a beautiful advice. So thank you so much, Chantale. So for those who want to stay connected with Chantale, you can connect with her on LinkedIn, as it was just a minute ago on the screen. You see it here. And if you have any question, you can reach out to her. So just before we wrap up, I want to again thank our partners RBC for supporting this series and helping us show more success stories in queer people in tech. I also want to thank our annual partners Sage, Unity, Ubisoft, BenHack, SpaceSafe, and Local Logic for all the support that they provide queer tech. I hope you enjoyed our episode today. Our goal is to tell more and more stories, queer stories in tech. And through this live stream and throughout all our social media, you can look at our blog posts. We do have a written version of a lot of these videos that you watch here that you can read these stories. So if you love what we do and you want to support Queer Tech, you can donate to Queer Tech on queertech.org, support us continue to deliver these amazing stories. We're also looking always for recommendation of queer leaders in tech to tell their stories. So feel free to also nominate people. You can go to queertech.org under QT Connect Café. There is a nomination form in there. Our next episode is on November 18, and I'm excited to be interviewing John Tragg. John is the current director of UX research and architecture for Autodesk Media and Entertainment Product Software, used to create computer graphic animation for film, special effects, television, video games, virtual reality, and architectural visualization. He spent more than 30 years designing software tools for designers ranging from graphic artists, typographers, industry designers, automotive stylists, and animators. And he was on the original tier that created Maya, which is now an industry standard for animation and won an Academy Award in 2003 for science and technical achievement. I'm really excited to be interviewing, so stay tuned. You can RSVP already on our websites for this event, or LinkedIn, or on Facebook. So stay tuned with us. And again, thank you for taking time over lunch to listen to the stories that we bring you, and looking forward to talk to you soon. And hopefully, before I forget, also hopefully that you, if you're interested to get a job in tech, you can join our event next week. You can RSVP on queertech.org. As you see, we have a list of amazing partners that are joining us on November 4th and 5th. We start at noon on next Thursday, and it will be an amazing fire chat with Lauren, who's the VP of Future at Work. We also have some amazing workshop with Unity and Accenture, and many different panels also that will be covered during this event. So until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.